Hello, and welcome. This is the promised goal setting workshop. So, for those of you who couldn't make it or who want to go back and review these, this is for you. It's very, very practical. I'm not going to be lecturing you. I might make a few little comments as we go just to help guide you and give you a little bit of an understanding. But the majority of this is actually based on you journaling, you taking some time to pause and finding your own answers. So you will need a notepad and pen for this. So pop me on pause, go and grab that if you haven't. I would also recommend making this a really nice space for yourself. So do this when you've got a little bit of time, where you've got a little bit of space, where you can maybe light a candle, maybe the kids are in bed or they're out somewhere, and you can just take a little bit of time to really focus on this. Move away from distractions, turn the notifications off, put your phone on silent or in another room. And I promise you, this is so powerful. I'd done this myself before I delivered it as well. And I just felt so clear. I felt really aligned. I felt really fresh and super, super motivated to get going with things. So I hope that you end up feeling the same as well. So, the first thing I want to do is reflect a little bit. So, the way this is going to work is we've got 3 to 4 sections of the workshop, and they've each got a slightly different focus. I'm going to be giving you a journal prompt, and then I just want you to write down what comes up for you. Now, it might not instantly come to you. You might just put your pen on the paper, and then words might start flowing. It might be that you need to come back to some of these prompts because they don't immediately come to you, and that's okay too. You might want to come back and revisit. So for some of these things, I'll be giving you a little bit more time, and for some of them, I will be giving you a little bit of a shorter period, because sometimes I find that short, snappy just draws that answer out of you and stops you overthinking things as well. So, the first section is all about reflecting, and I want you to reflect on your wins, because it's something that we do not do enough of as women. We are so busy, our to do list is constantly there, constantly growing, and we're always kind of focusing on what we've not achieved or what we need to do more of. And we don't actually spend enough time sitting there and appreciating ourselves, celebrating ourselves for what we have already achieved so far. And there is so much power in that, not just from a woo-woo side of things. Yes, it makes you feel great, but also from a behavioral change science viewpoint. When we reward ourselves, when we celebrate our wins, that actually drives us to create more of an identity. It drives us to get that dopamine release that will drive us to continue the actions and behaviors that lead to the results and outcomes that we want. So your first prompt of the goal setting workshop is, what are your biggest achievements of last year? So obviously this was focused around 2025. If you're just coming to this at a different time, that's fine. I just want you to think about your biggest achievements in the last year, 1 to 3 things, and at least one being related to health, self-care, or fitness. Okay. Now, if you need a little bit more time, you can pop me on pause in between these, but I'm going to move through these. So you might listen to the prompt, pause the screen so you've got it there, spend as much time as you need writing that down, and then move on to the next part. So now I want you to, looking at those wins that you've written down, I want you to firstly identify what mindset made these achievements possible. So, what mindset were you in when you took the action steps to achieve this thing? What overall mindset helped you? Was it resilience? Was it taking that imperfect action, doing what was possible, doing something over nothing? So, write that down. Then also think about the overall habits and then those tiny little action steps as well that made these achievements possible. And that's just like going back to that cake analogy that I've used before. We don't just suddenly think in our mind, right, I want to achieve a 4-tier beautifully decorated cake. There's lots of little action steps that go into creating that. So we have to look up the recipe, we then have to buy all the ingredients, we then have to crack the egg. So all of those tiny little steps that make the overall outcome or achievement possible. I want you to have a little think about what they were for your wins that you've had over the last year. And this can be as short or as long as you like. You might find with these, once you get going, they'll keep flowing. Oh, didn't even, what's the word? I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Okay. How would you rate your current level of contentment with your personal life, health, and fitness on a scale of 1 to 5? So we're moving now into this reveal section. And with this section, I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Now, this is not to create shame, guilt. This is not to make you feel bad in any way. But I will ask you with these next set of prompts to be totally honest with yourself. Because if we can look at where the challenges have occurred, where the bottlenecks have occurred, where we may not have been doing things that we need to be doing or that are going to move us closer towards our goals, then we can grow, we can learn from it, and we can identify what the next best step is. If we're not honest with ourselves and we just keep brushing over it, creating excuses, falling into kind of that victim mindset where we're placing blame on external circumstances and so on, where it is within your control, then we can't move forwards quite so well. So let's clear those bottlenecks in this reveal section. So just a quick one on a scale of 1 to 5, current contentment levels with your personal life, health, fitness. And then this is the hard-hitting questions coming up now. So what did you avoid all year that you knew that you needed to do? And how will you overcome this? Now, the how will you overcome this is going to be the crucial part. So be honest with yourself. What did you avoid all year? So I'll be open and share mine. I have still been stuck in a really bad habit of staying in bed longer in the morning, just sitting there drinking my coffee. And then that is creating more pressure of having to get ready in less time, less peacefully, trying to get everybody out of the house on time. And that's because I've got stuck in this habit that worked for me when my little one was a baby, because we needed to do milk feeds because he had me up every hour throughout the night and I needed that extra little bit of rest. But I probably don't need that time anymore. And actually, this habit is probably not serving me anymore. So how will I overcome this? Well, I need to be getting up a little bit earlier. And then I need to obviously create the action steps that are going to help me do that. So that's just my example. Yours is probably going to be completely different to mine, but it's just how we can kind of break that down. So what did you avoid all year that you knew you needed to do, and how will you overcome this? Okay, moving on. This one is really nice, particularly if you're not feeling super motivated or super clear on what your goals are right now. I often find that we can get caught in this little sticky middle stage where we've sort of achieved, we've done well, we've achieved part of our goal, or we've got to where we initially thought we wanted to be. And we're in this kind of middle ground. So we're in this 5, 6 out of 10 zone where we're much further than where we started our health and fitness journey, but equally we're not at our optimal range either. And this can be really difficult because we're caught in that kind of contentment zone, and that can keep us stuck. So if you're a bit like, I don't really want to set myself any goals, I don't know what my goals would be, I'm quite happy where I am. Like, first, yes, great, relish in that contentment, celebrate what you've achieved so far, but also it's really important that we keep that momentum going, because it's so easy in that point to not actually challenge yourself enough to prove what is possible for you, to keep on growing. And it's also that zone where you can easily slip back into bad habits or poor habits that are not going to be helpful for your health and well-being and overall goals. So, long-winded way, but I want you to think about fear setting. Now, when we think about what we want to avoid, that can equally give us the answers, the drive, the motivation to propel us forwards. So, when it comes to your health, what is your biggest fear that you want to avoid? And I want you to think here, what's the worst case scenario? So, it might be I don't want to lose my independence. I don't want to be a burden on my children and them have to look after me and it impact their life. It might be that somebody, there's an illness that runs in the family that you want to try and avoid. Now, I know this is quite heavy, but actually it does draw some of those answers out of you. And it is important to think the pros and the cons. So, what will you get from achieving your goals? What's the benefits of setting goals? But also, why are you doing that ultimately? What are you trying to avoid? So, once you've got that why there, I highly encourage you to keep that somewhere that you can keep coming back to, because your why is going to be so, so important. It's going to be your anchor, particularly when motivation falls down that sliding scale, which it will do. So we're not always going to be 100% motivated all the time. So when motivation starts to dip, when you're starting to get stuck in a little bit of a rut, when you're noticing some of those sneaky little habits come back in, or you're doubting whether to go on that run or that workout, go back to that why, go back to that fear, and that might just give you that little boost and that reminder of why you're doing what you're doing, particularly when it's hard as well. Okay, so this is the final prompt now in the reveal section, and then we'll be moving on to the nice juicy stuff. If you keep doing exactly what you've done in 2025 or over the last year, where will you be this year? So obviously we're doing this beginning of 26, but if you're coming to this different period, then where will you be in the next 6 to 12 months? If you keep doing exactly what you've done in the last year, where will you be in the next 6 to 12 months? Now, this could be positive as well. So you might identify some of the actions that you've done that are great and that are leading towards your goals. And so write those down too, because again, it's going to give you that clarity of, if I keep doing this, it's going to move me closer towards where I want to be. And it is helping me achieve what I want to get. Okay, so now we're moving on to the focus moving forward, and I love this. So, what we often do when we're setting goals is we set the outcome, we set the aspiration that we've got for ourselves, which is great. It's really good to have that clarity and know what we want to get. However, it's really easy to focus purely on the outcome and not the process of who you're becoming and creating an identity for yourself. There's so often I hear women hold themselves back because they go on one run, they've not enjoyed it, and then they say something like, I'm not a runner, or they don't give something a go because deep down they're a little bit worried about failing, they're worried about looking silly, they're worried about not feeling safe. And then they link themselves to an identity there. I won't do that. Oh, that's not me. And actually, we can become whoever we want to be. We are in control of that. We get to control our destiny and what direction our life moves forwards in. So, when setting goals, instead of just solely focusing on the weight, the number, the end result, I want you to start thinking about who you are becoming, not just what you want to achieve. And when you start then acting like that person who prioritizes their health, moves their body well, creates space for themselves to recharge, all the outcomes that we want actually become a natural byproduct without us putting so much pressure on it. So this is actually about building an identity that is going to support your goals, and so that then it becomes easier for those habits to feel aligned. They make you feel like this is the version of me that I want to become. They become more sustainable and they become part of who you are rather than you trying to force yourself to do something. So, obviously, I've gone into a little bit more detail here, but the journal prompt for you is: what kind of woman do you want to become this year? And you might write this down as: this year, I am becoming a woman who. And I want you to visualize that version of yourself achieving that goal, that end result, or doing all the little habits that are going to get you there. So once you visualize that, once you've kind of got clear on that identity that you want for yourself, who you want to become, and this might be looking at, say, for example, somebody else that you really admire, and what is it about them that you admire? That might be something that you're seeking for yourself. Or equally, it might be someone that you look at and you might feel a little bit jealous of or a little bit envious of. What is it about them that you feel envious about? What is causing that kind of feeling of jealousy? It's not bad. We all experience it from time to time. If we're comparing ourselves to somebody else, it's often shining a light on what we're seeking for ourselves. So instead of looking at it as that in a bad light, look at it as a motivation as to what version of yourself that you want to become. What part of that person do you really admire, or are you secretly comparing yourself about? And how can you make that possible for you? So, what habits or behaviors would that version of you naturally have? So, in order to achieve that outcome, in order to become that woman, what do you need to be doing? What action steps are you doing on a day-to-day basis? What are you not doing on a day-to-day basis that you're currently doing? So, think about all these things, and you might write yourself a little bullet point, you might write a paragraph, however works best for you. So now you've got that in mind. We've looked at everything we've achieved that we're really proud of. We've been really honest with ourselves about some of the things that we're probably avoiding, that we know we need to be doing, some little changes that we need to make, and then also that version of ourselves that we want to become moving forwards. That should give you a lot of clarity around the things that you'd like to change in your life and your health right now. So, what are your top 3 priorities? What are your top goals or things that you'd like to achieve or change moving forwards right now? Now, I've said 3 here, but you might only write 1. That's okay. I wouldn't recommend going more than 3 because we can come back to this at any time. But what can often happen is if we pick more than 1 to 3 things, is our energy can get quite scattered. Well, as a person, we're only going to have a certain amount of energy to give, a certain amount of time to give to actions, habits that we need to take. And if we're writing 10 goals down, our focus and that energy is going to get divided across all of those things. And in that case, then everything's going to become slower. So it's not that we're not working towards those things, it's just that achieving them is going to be a lot slower because we've got less energy to give to it, less focus to give to it. And then when progress is slow, what do? We get really fed up, we get frustrated, and we often give up on our goals. If you only had 1 to 3 things that you're putting that time and energy into, you're going to see results much quicker. That tank's going to fill up much quicker. The action steps are going to happen a lot more focused. They're going to be more achievable, and you're going to see those results quicker. So this is why I say top 3 max. If you've got more than 3, Select the top ones that you want to prioritize right now, save the rest for a later time. And then what would success look like to you? So if you was to achieve that thing, what does it look like? Because often success just has this general definition, but we don't define it for ourselves. And so I want you to think about what success means to you, not what anybody else thinks success looks like, not what the media tells us success looks like, not what our parents might have told us what success looks like. What does it mean to you? Okay, so moving forwards now, we're going to get absolute clarity. We're going to nail it down so that we have got a clear action step to start to take to move forwards and head towards those goals, because action creates momentum. When we start taking those first little steps, they're going to build and build and build. And like I've always said, with that snowball effect, it will become bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what's going to move us towards where we want to be. So what one goal are you going to focus on first? So think about what I said in terms of our energy and our capacity. I want you to just focus on one thing at a time. Once you've achieved that one thing, we celebrate ourselves. We've built confidence in ourselves that we can achieve things. We feel more resilient. We feel more capable. And then we'll move on to our next. So what one goal is the biggest priority for you right now? And then what habit or small step could you begin with? So I want you to think about the easiest next step that you can take that's going to move you towards that one goal that you've set yourself, that one priority right now. If I was to say, go and do something tonight, tomorrow morning, what could you do that aligns with that? If it's, I want to start running, it might be, I'm going to put a date in the diary. I'm going to look at my diary. I'm going to block it out for when I can get a run in. I'm going to speak to my partner or my mum or whoever it is to see if they can look after the kids. So now we're just going to make sure that what we have written down here definitely is moving us in the right direction. So it's just a little review. So thinking about that one priority, your best next step. Does this actually take you closer towards the goal? Or have you just written something that's a little bit wishy-washy, or something that's maybe not quite so related, but just easy to do? And does it fit the shape of your life currently? So does that one priority that you've set yourself, that one goal, and does the action step that you've set yourself actually fit real life? Because it is really important that what we're setting ourselves is realistic and we're not just setting ourselves up to fail. We want to make sure that we're setting ourselves obviously juicy, challenging goals, but also ones that do fit life, that are not going to become so difficult for us to maintain that, again, we're setting ourselves up for failure. And then finally, probably the most important thing is your plan B. So we all know life is not perfect. It's not linear. Things are going to crop up that are completely out of your control, that are unexpected. Kids are going to get ill. We're going to end up in A&E. Something's going to happen in our personal life. Just things will throw us off. That's just a given, and we have to accept that. What we don't have to accept is that we can't do anything about it. So this is why I always think it's so important to have that plan B and think about your good, better, bests here. So if an obstacle comes my way or derails me or tries to derail me, then I will. And I want you to write something here. Firstly, one small step that you could still take in any situation. And you might think here about the most common ones that often crop up for you. Late nights at work, you get held up in a meeting and then you end up missing a workout, those sorts of things. What can you do to overcome that? What can you do that will be within your control? And you might write here your good, so your very smallest step that you'd be able to take, or the one thing that you can still focus on. So if it's your nutrition, well, I've ended up having to go to A&E or stay off with the kids because they're ill. Well, I might have missed my run because I've got no childcare, but I can still focus on my nutrition. I can still base my meals around protein. I can still drink my water. So think about what it is in your control or what you can do to flip it. I might not be able to get to the gym, but I can do a home workout. Something is always better than nothing. Okay, finally, this is the really fun bit, and I love these. I want you to set yourself a moonshot or a clean slate goal. So this is just for fun, but set those intentions out there, set the bar high. We've done all the realistic part. We know where we're going. But this is going to be, if you got to start over with completely different circumstances, you didn't have all your obligations, all your responsibilities, or you might be thinking further in the future, what's this big, scary goal that you'd like to achieve? And I want you to think about something that maybe you've never told someone, but you secretly feel it inside. You secretly dream about it, daydream about it sometimes. What is that big, scary goal, that moonshot goal that you would do if you didn't have all the obligations, responsibilities that you have now? Put it out there, put those big vibes out there. If you are coming to this at the beginning of the year, or you've not done this for yourself at any point in the year, I'm going to ask you to set yourself a word. Okay, so a word for moving forwards for the next year. And I like to do this at the beginning of every year. I write myself a word, and it's just a little anchor point to keep coming back to, that this is my word for the year. This is what I need to align with. This is what I've set myself. So for me this year, it's focus and capable. If I focus on one thing at a time, then I want to see what I am truly capable of. So they're the goals, they're the words that are holding me accountable towards the goals that I've set myself. So if you want to, I'd love for you to share your words with me. Obviously, if you're a client, drop it in the group chat or send me a message. If you're not a client, drop me a message, Instagram or WhatsApp, because I'd love to hear what your word is. And if you want to share a little bit about that as well, please do, because I'd love to hear about it. I love hearing everyone's words and their ambitions for the year. So I hope this has been helpful. Take as long as you need with this. Go back to things if you need to. If you didn't get an answer right away, maybe just allow that seed to settle, and some answers and some thoughts will start to grow out of that, and they might come to you next time you get a little bit of space, or next time you're driving in the car or in the bath, something might just come up. So don't worry if you haven't got an answer to everything right away. It will drop in just by the sheer fact that you've taken this time to sit there, take time and space for yourself to focus and set that direction moving forwards. If you do have some big juicy goals that you want to share with me and you need support with, you want help staying accountable, you want help thinking, how can I break this down and make it actionable, then please do let me know, because that is exactly what I do. It's what I'm here to help with. And I'll see you again soon.